Picture a group of incredibly ambitious people. They're gathered in a room staring intently at a brilliant idea sketched out on a whiteboard. They've got millions of dollars in funding, big dreams, beautifully polished presentations, and an absolute unshakable belief that they are literally building the future. In this explainer, we're going to explore exactly what happens next, because the reality of startup failure is actually one of the most misunderstood phenomena in our modern business systems.
Millions in funding, massive dreams, and then suddenly everything just collapses. It all goes dark. But here's what we really need to understand right out of the gate. This collapse, it doesn't happen because they lacked passion. It doesn't happen because they didn't put in the hours. It happens because building a successful business is just fundamentally, brutally difficult. In the world we're exploring today, having a great idea is really just the opening scene.
Act 1. The intoxicating illusion. You see, this is where every single story begins. It starts with a small team, a big vision, and this really powerful, almost intoxicating optimism. We all love to romanticize that eureka moment, don't we? But the cold truth is, ideas are abundant, they're everywhere, and they are based entirely on imagination. Execution, on the other hand, is exceptionally rare. It demands relentless, precise action. So many people believe success starts and ends with the idea itself, but an idea without the heavy machinery of action behind it is effectively meaningless. Out there in the void of inaction, reality is incredibly harsh. Think about it. A great idea without customers, that creates absolutely no business. A great idea without market demand generates zero revenue. And a great idea without execution remains exactly that, just an idea. Businesses are built piece by piece through concrete action, not just imagination. Eventually, reality always arrives at your door, and it demands proof. Act 2. The mechanics of collapse.
So when that intoxicating illusion finally fades, what's left? Well, companies are forced to deal with the actual underlying systems, and the absolute core of those systems is value. What do customers actually open their wallets for? It comes down to convenience, speed, savings, entertainment, or efficiency. Successful companies survive simply because they solve real, tangible problems in one of these specific categories. If people don't fundamentally need the solution you're offering, the entire structure is going to start buckling under the pressure. In creating that value, it triggers a relentless ticking clock. Because suddenly, you have employees who require salaries. You have products that demand continuous, expensive development. Marketing demands deep investment, and keeping up with growth requires constantly expanding resources. Cash flow very quickly becomes an insidious trap. It's like a machine that has to be fed every single day, and that burn rate is completely unforgiving. Which brings us to a rather dark reality. A lot of startups don't fail because their core ideas were inherently bad. They fail simply because the clock runs out before they can put the puzzle together. When the money disappears, the opportunities disappear right alongside it. The doors lock, the screens go dark. It's really that simple. Now, this builds into something deeply counterintuitive. We call it the paradox of growth. We naturally assume that growth means safety, right? But rapid expansion brings more customers, which immediately introduces massive, sometimes uncontrollable complexity. And that complexity drives up expenses. Sometimes companies grow so fast they literally exceed their own capacity to manage the machine they built. In these cases, growth itself becomes the fatal problem, triggering a total system failure. And keep in mind, all of this is happening while trying to navigate a battlefield that never, ever rests. The threat is continuous. Even if your product is a massive hit, large, established companies are going to respond, brand new startups are going to appear out of nowhere to challenge you, customer expectations will ruthlessly evolve, and technology and markets can shift almost overnight. No company exists in a vacuum. Surviving this constant shifting threat isn't optional, it's mandatory. Act 3. The psychological weight. We really can't fully grasp the anatomy of failure without examining the human element here. I'm talking about the crushing burden that founders carry in the dark. Imagine having distinct groups of people pulling your system in entirely different directions. Your investors are demanding exponential growth. Your customers are expecting constant improvement. Your employees are looking to you for security and stability. And as a founder, you're just desperate for success. Trying to balance these massive, conflicting expectations makes deep uncertainty a daily diet. And overriding every single one of those decisions is the completely unforgiving nature of timing. Timing is a dynamic that dictates survival just as much as the actual product does. You can be too early, launching when the technology just isn't ready.
You can fall into the gap where customers simply aren't ready to adopt your solution, or the market shifts and suddenly you're too late and the opportunity is entirely missed. Timing really is a silent predator.
Act 4. The hidden reality. As we guide ourselves out of this autopsy, we really have to reframe what it is we're looking at. Because in modern business systems, failure is rarely a pure, finalized defeat. The illusion out there gives us glossy outcomes, right? Celebrated billion-dollar companies and glowing magazine headlines. But the reality, the shadowy truth that the public rarely ever sees, is that these companies are built on years of uncertainty, chronic stress, and some deeply painful mistakes. There is a dark, psychological gauntlet that every single successful founder has to secretly navigate. The price of survival is incredibly heavy. We're talking about years of not knowing if payroll will clear, the immense, isolating stress of leadership, making incredibly costly mistakes, dealing with difficult decisions, and countless silent setbacks that no one else sees. That is the true anatomy of the journey. Every unsuccessful company teaches something valuable. It is absolutely essential to understand that many of the most successful entrepreneurs operating today are built entirely upon the wreckage of their previous failures. In this ecosystem, the lessons you extract from those painful mistakes exactly what improve your future decisions. The collapse isn't the end. The collapse is the curriculum. Ultimately, building a company is not about simply having big dreams. And failure rarely happens just because people are lazy. It's about flawless execution in the face of immense friction. It's about rapid adaptation when the market inevitably shifts beneath your feet. And above all else, it's about relentless survival in a completely unpredictable world with strictly limited resources. Success stories often hide the struggles that came before them, because behind every glossy headline, behind every magical unicorn valuation, there are thousands of unheard stories. Stories of systems collapsing, timing missing the mark, and resources running completely dry. These are the stories that most people will never, ever hear. Which leaves us with this final thought to linger on. When we look at the incredible innovations shaping our modern world, we really have to ask ourselves, what is the true cost of building the future? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Until next time.
This is Corp File. Inside the world of big brands. Subscribe to explore the real stories behind the companies that shape our world.